Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Okay, welcome in on this special broadcast. I'm in New York today. We'll be heading out to Israel later this afternoon, and we'll be broadcasting from the Jewish News Syndicate for the rest of the week. Lots of breaking news over the weekend. I hope you'll follow me throughout the week as I'll talk with you about what we're doing in Israel. Eric Swalwell had a message over the weekend for potential Democrat presidential candidates in 2028. Don't even consider it if you're not willing to pledge to demolish the new state dinner event space that President Donald Trump has adding to the East Wing of the White House. Just a clear message. Don't think about running for president if you're not willing to, on day one, he said, demolish the new ballroom. Is that not crazy or what? More on that in a minute. Meanwhile, the furor over the demolition of the East Wing last week has not settled down, with Democrats vowing to hold Trump accountable. We've got the latest on the White House renovations for you. Gunfire erupted just after 9:30 p.m. Saturday during a tailgate celebration near the football stadium on the historic campus of Lincoln University just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. One person is confirmed dead. 6 others were wounded as well. In an interview with the BBC, former Vice President Kamala Harris says that she had concerns about Joe Biden running for re-election, but not about his fitness to serve. Now, somebody help me understand that. If you had concerns about him running, but he was in office then and you weren't concerned about him serving, we'll dive into that as well. And it could be happening. South Carolina's nuclear comeback. The VC summer reactors may rise again. I talked with you about it on Friday. They had a big meeting in Columbia. Now we have the answer. It appears there's a deal with private partners that will have no new cost to ratepayers and will jumpstart these reactors once and for all.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
So terrible news out of Pennsylvania. A deadly mass shooting at Lincoln University's homecoming left 1 person dead, 6 others wounded. Gunfire erupted just after 9:30 p.m. on Saturday. It was during a tailgate celebration near the football stadium on the historic Chester County campus, which is about 50 miles west of Philadelphia. District Attorney Christopher Donera described a chaotic scene, people fleeing in every direction, first responders swarming in, and a community stunned. It's very similar to what happened at South Carolina State, just over a month ago. Officials say 1 person has been detained after being found in possession of a firearm, but no charges have been announced. That was as of late last night. The DA would not confirm whether multiple shooters were involved, only that investigators have viable evidence suggesting there may have been more than 1 gunman in the parking lot area between the stadium and the International Cultural Center. He also said it does not currently appear to have been a pre-planned attack targeting the campus. 6 victims were taken to local hospitals. Authorities have not released their conditions. The person killed has not been publicly identified yet. Lincoln University, founded in 1854, is the nation's first degree-granting HBCU. It canceled the celebration. The HBCU, by the way, historically black college and university. The campus was briefly locked down and later cleared once police determined there was no active threat. University leaders say counseling services will be available for students, staff, and alumni. Now, the demolition of the East Wing at the White House continues to create headlines. Who would have thought that an improvement to the White House, something that many people say has been needed for years, would create such division? There, of course, started the demolition last week to make way for President Trump's vision. It's a nice, big, festive ballroom, but it's triggered enormous outcry from Democrats primarily. For many who have experienced state dinners firsthand, they acknowledge that something needed to be done. That doesn't seem to matter, though. And we've had Democrats and Republicans say that, admit. And look, as I've told you, and I've been to the White House, never been to a state dinner, but I've been in that East Room, and it's not even as big as your typical hotel convention ballroom. Now, I got to tell you, just when you think Washington couldn't get any more ridiculous, California Congressman Eric Swalwell stepped up to prove us wrong. Because apparently the next big Democrat litmus test isn't about border security. It's not about inflation or the $38 trillion national debt. Nope, it's about tearing down this new ballroom that the president is building if they're going to be the Democrat nominee in 2028. Swalwell says that no Democrat should even think about running for president in 2028 unless they promise to, and I'm quoting, take a wrecking ball to the Trump ballroom on day one. Now, how do you campaign on that? They're just when it comes to Donald Trump, they don't know what to do with themselves. I mean, first of all, let's just take a moment to appreciate how absurd that is. We've got wars raging overseas. Crime is surging in some of our major cities. An economy that is stretched to a breaking point for some families. And Eric Swalwell, and not to mention that the government's been shut down, and Swalwell's priority is to bulldoze a ballroom that's going to cost about $300 million. And the taxpayer dollars, not one penny, will go into it. The president is donating himself, and he has private donors ready to pay. Now, as far as the amount of this, I don't know what the total budget is. At one point, it was suggested it'd be about $200,000. Then I heard $200 million. Then I heard $250 million. Then at one point over the weekend, someone was reporting it may be $300 million. The bottom line is this: doesn't matter if it is $250 or $300 million. Not a single dime of taxpayer money is going to be spent because President Trump is putting this deal together. It's going to be a 90,000 square foot ballroom that will be adjacent to the east side of the White House. And yes, he tore down the old East Wing of the White House to make room for it. And people are standing on their head. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt described it as much needed and an exquisite addition to the White House, to the people's house, she said. The White House is currently unable to host major functions honoring world leaders without installing a large, unsightly tent 100 yards away from the main entrance. The new ballroom will be a proper, permanent, and beautiful solution. Now, that sounds reasonable enough, doesn't it? And yet, to Swalwell and his crowd, it's practically a symbol of tyranny. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time Democrats have tried to erase anything or something that has the Trump name on it. They've renamed buildings. They've removed plaques, even canceled scholarships tied to Trump charities. It's the political equivalent of pretending your ex never existed, only this time it's the White House we're talking about. And make no mistake, Swalwell's outburst isn't really about architecture. It's about symbolism. Because Trump's ballroom isn't just a room, it is a statement. It's his way of saying, we're back, America is strong. The White House is once again the centerpiece of the free world, and that drives the left absolutely crazy. Swalwell's post on X wasn't just some offhand comment either. He said, don't even think of seeking the Democrat nomination unless you pledge to take a wrecking ball to the Trump ballroom on day one. A wrecking ball. I don't know if that's supposed to sound tough or just petty. But either way, it's not a great looking, coming from a congressman. And let's not forget, who was once kicked off the House Intelligence Committee for his own questionable judgment involving a Chinese spy named Fang Fang. You remember that? Remember Eric Swalwell and his girlfriend? So maybe Swalwell should sit this one out before telling future presidents what's part of the White House to destroy. It's just amazing to me. I mean, let's talk about the bigger picture here. Trump's White House renovations aren't just cosmetic. They're part of a larger vision, one that mirrors his approach at Mar-a-Lago and other Trump properties. Timeless, elegant, unapologetically American. Something that we all could be proud of. This new ballroom will feature arched windows, coffered ceilings, chandeliers, accents that will sort of simulate the existing style of the current White House. Now, you tell me, knowing what Trump can build, do you trust him to build this beautiful ballroom adjacent to the White House and just make it look like it's been there forever? I do. Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Let's be honest, those summer vacations and backyard barbecues added some extra pounds, right? But instead of feeling guilty or falling further behind, it's time to reset, drop the weight, and get back in control. The solution isn't a shot. Real lasting weight loss starts with your mind, not your mouth. At PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team help you uncover the real reasons behind your weight gain so that you can reprogram the way you think about food forever. PhD clients lose up to a third of their body weight without ever taking a drug. I know because I lost 33 pounds with PhD weight loss. Through real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science, your body can become a natural fat-burning machine. Why risk spending thousands on shots that strip away muscle, come with dangerous side effects, and leave most people regaining 60% of the weight within a year? With PhD, you'll activate your body's natural appetite control, burn fat safely, and stay in control. Even if you're already on Ozempic, PhD can help you transition off while still losing weight. Take the first step today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. Continuing today's show from New York as I head to Israel, will be broadcasting from Jerusalem for the rest of the week. Some politics, power, a little bit of money, a little bit of good old-fashioned scandal out of Colombia. The state's recently fired elections director, Howard Knapp, was arrested on Friday on a laundry list of charges, including embezzlement, misconduct in office, even being an accessory to a felony. And if that's not enough drama for you, his former deputy, Paige Solanich, was arrested too on a wiretapping charge for allegedly planting a recording device in a closed-door meeting of the State Election Commission. Now, you may recall a week or two ago, these two just suddenly left the Election Commission. There were a lot of questions. Nobody really knew what was going on. Well, we know now. It's one of those stories that sounds like something out of a political thriller, but this one's real, and it's unfolding right here in the Palmetto State. So here's the story. Mr. Knapp, and I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly, 40 years old, was booked into the Richland County Jail early Friday morning. He faces a total of 11 charges, including 8 counts of using his office for financial gain, 1 count of embezzling public funds under $10,000, 1 count of misconduct in office, and 1 count of being an accessory to a felony. Prosecutors say that he used state-owned vehicles and a taxpayer-funded credit card for personal use over an 8-month stretch. Now, why do these people do this? They have to know that they can't use a state credit card and get by with it. They have to know eventually it's going to catch up with them. Supposedly, he did this between June of 2023 to January 2024, running up about $5,480 worth of fuel for non-work trips. And get this. Investigators say that sometimes it wasn't even Mr. Knapp behind the wheel. They say that he let his wife drive those state vehicles as well. It's kind of like another family vehicle, I guess, allegedly. Now, $5,400 might not sound like much in the grand scheme of things of state government when they spend billions. But, folks, it's not about the dollar amount, is it? It's about the abuse of the trust of this guy thinking he can do this with your money, my money, and get away with it. When you're the head of the elections of the state of South Carolina, the man responsible for maintaining public confidence in how our democracy runs, you can't be joyriding in a taxpayer-funded car and expect not to get caught. As it wasn't bad enough with this, it's kind of worse. Knapp also is accused of trying to cover up a separate crime, and that's where his deputy, Paige Solanich, comes in. She's accused of placing a recording device in a private meeting of the Election Commission without authorization, which prosecutors say amounts to illegal wiretapping. After the device was discovered, arrest warrants say that Knapp allegedly called several Election Commission employees, urging them to remove the recorder before anyone found it, before he got caught, or she got caught. Again, that's according to state investigators. It makes him an accessory to a felony after the fact. Now, let me tell you, when you have the state's top election officials planting recorders in closed meetings and calling around to clean up the evidence, it doesn't exactly inspire confidence in the people running the system, does it? Kind of makes you wonder, well, what else did they do? Knapp's attorney, Columbia defense lawyer Joe McCullough, came out swinging, of course. He told reporters, quote, "This is all about politics. We look forward to a very public trial." That's a line that you hear a lot when people in power get caught. It's all about politics. But in this case, it's worth noting that Knapp's own state election commission fired him last month in a 3-2 vote, saying it was time for new leadership. Now, did this have anything to do with it? Again, I don't know. We just know that he suddenly departed the agency. And this whole mess comes barely a year after the state Senate confirmed Knapp to the post. I mean, he just took over. In other words, it didn't take long for this to go sideways. Attorney General Alan Wilson isn't mincing words either. He said in a statement, quote, "While everyone charged with a crime is innocent until proven guilty, no one is above the law, and we won't stand for taxpayers being exploited." And that's exactly right, because, folks, here's the thing. This isn't the first time a South Carolina election official has gotten in trouble for misusing taxpayer-funded transportation. Take a quick trip down memory lane. In 2006, Richard Ekstrom, then the state's comptroller general, reimbursed the state after using a government car on a family trip to Minnesota. In 2010, Governor Mark Sanford, the Appalachian Trail governor, paid $74,000 in ethics fines for misusing state airplanes and other travel violations. In 2012, Governor Nikki Haley had to repay nearly $10,000 to the State Aeronautics Commission after the Associated Press discovered she had used a state plane for news conferences and bill signings, things that she technically wasn't supposed to do under the budget rules at that time. Those airplanes seem to always get people in trouble. So this kind of thing isn't new, but here's the difference. Sanford, Haley, Ekstrom all paid the money back. None of them were criminally charged. Knapp, on the other hand, is facing serious felony counts and could possibly face jail time. Now, about that recording device. Solanich, who served as Knapp's deputy director, was allegedly caught on tape planting it in the election board in their meeting room. She was placed on unpaid leave on September the 18th and fired just a few days later. Her attorney, Catherine Hunter, declined to comment. Probably a smart move at this point. Meanwhile, the warrants say Knapp tried to get the recorder removed before it was discovered. And that's where the accessory charge comes in. He and his assistant were both released on Friday on their personal recognizance bond, meaning they didn't have to pay up front, just a promise to reappear. Knapp's bond was set at $75,000. His assistant's at $25,000. And here's where things get even more interesting, if you will. The State Law Enforcement Division says that they started investigating Knapp back in March of this year at the request of the Attorney General's office. That was months before his firing. So this wasn't just some spur-of-the-moment vendetta. This evidently was a long-running probe that apparently uncovered a pattern of misconduct. And SLED says the investigation is still active and ongoing, so there could be more charges coming. I don't know. I guess there could be more revelations that are uncovered. So what does this all mean for South Carolina elections, if anything? Well, in the short term, it's another black eye on the agency that's supposed to be the guardian of trust and integrity of our voting system, which leads you to pause, doesn't it? We've already seen confidence shaken nationally by allegations of election interference and corruption. Now, again, this has nothing to do with actual votes, but if the officials who are in charge of those actual votes are misusing taxpayer resources, you got to wonder what else they may do. That's not the kind of leadership that South Carolinians want at their election commission, no matter what your politics are, no matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. And look, his lawyer may be right. Maybe this does have a political undertone, but it just doesn't pass the smell test, does it? Email me, text me, joeyhudson.com. Wow, what a game for my Carolina Gamecocks on Saturday. Almost, just that close to beating Alabama. but they were playing football and not horseshoes. So close doesn't matter. Here we go again, another episode in a long, strange saga of Joe Biden's presidency. This one features none other than his former vice president, Kamala Harris, trying to explain how she kinda, sorta had concerns about his reelection campaign, but not really about his ability to be president. Now, somebody help me understand this. How can you be concerned about his reelection campaign and whether or not he should be running again when you'd like to run yourself, but you're not concerned that he was the most powerful man in the world, that he was president of the United States, and you weren't concerned about his ability to lead? Does that make sense to you? I mean, does this not sound like political gymnastics? Only Kamala Harris. She sat down this weekend with the BBC's Laura Kuenssberg for what turned out to be one of the most revealing interviews she's done since leaving office, most likely. Kuenssberg pressed her repeatedly, asking whether she felt shut out from knowing the truth about Joe Biden's health and whether she regrets not raising the issue sooner before his disastrous campaign imploded. Her response? Well, Kamala admitted that she had, quote, concerns, but not about his capacity to serve, but about his ability to run for re-election. Her exact words were this, and I'm reading from the quote: "There's a very serious difference between the capacity to be president of the United States and the capacity to run for president of the United States." Now, does that make any sense to anybody who's listening to my voice this morning? I don't know about you, but that sounds like splitting hairs so thin you could read a teleprompter through them. And that's probably what she was doing. Harris told the BBC that she worried about Biden's endurance and energy, especially running against the now current president, meaning, of course, President Donald Trump, and his endless energy. She said it wasn't about his ability to govern, but about whether he could withstand the physical and mental grind of a campaign trail. Yep. So, what's so bizarre here? Because if you're saying a man doesn't have the stamina to run for president, how can you possibly argue he has the stamina to be president? Anybody want to help me on that? Text me. Email me, joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code JOEY when you go to MyPillow.com and take advantage of some of the great deals that Mike Lindell has to offer, especially the MyPillow towels. You know I love the towels. You still get the six-pack, two bath towels, 2 hand towels, 2 washcloths. They're regularly $69.98, but when you throw my name around, just use promo code Joey, you're going to get them for $39.98. $39.98 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4059. I promise you they're the most absorbent, but more importantly, the most comfortable towels you will ever own. But back to, and I do want you to leave me a message. Tell me how you think that Kamala could argue the point that Joe Biden was okay to be president, he just couldn't run for president. That right there is one of the most revealing things that she has admitted. This was the woman who herself was a heartbeat away from the Oval Office, now trying to tell the world she saw warning signs, but didn't want to say anything because it might look self-serving. Wow. She said she was worried that if she questioned Biden's readiness, people would think that she was angling for his job. Well, we were already thinking that. Everybody in the world knew that Kamala Harris wanted to be president. She was vice president. She was next in line. And so, yes, that conversation maybe would have been a little awkward with she and Joe in the room together, but we all knew it. If she truly believed that he didn't have the endurance to run, let alone lead, don't you think she had an obligation to step up and to speak out? But instead, she stayed silent. She wrote about it in her memoir and now wants credit for being thoughtful about it. Folks, that's not courage, that's career management. And that's what Kamala Harris has done so well over the years. Now, to her credit, the interviewer with BBC didn't let her off the hook. She said, "Isn't it a strange message to the public to say you need to be tougher to run for office than to sit behind the desk in the Oval Office? Bingo. That's a very fair question. Again, it's just what I was the question that I was talking about. Because if the Democrats' argument during the last election was that Joe Biden was fit to serve, then by Harris's own words, that was never true. She was worried about his age. She was worried about his energy. She was worried about his endurance. She just didn't say it out loud. Now she's rewriting history to make herself look responsible without actually taking responsibility in case she happens to run again. And get this, she said during the interview, she's not done. She told the BBC she's considering another run for office, maybe even for president again. She said, I have lived my entire career as a life of service. It's in my bones. You can almost hear the campaign music warming up in the background, can't you? The same Kamala Harris who dropped out of the 2020 race before the first primary because she couldn't even win over her home state of California, now saying she's ready for another round. And if that's service, it's certainly not the kind of service most Americans are asking for. And while she's out there reminiscing about a life of service, she also couldn't resist taking a swing at President Trump, calling him a tyrant and accusing business leaders of bowing to his demands. That's the same old playbook, isn't it? That's the only playbook Kamala Harris has. When the left runs out of answers, they go back to their favorite talking point that Trump is a dictator, and Kamala Harris leads the effort. Never mind that the economy's booming again, that the border has been secured. Now, she was the border czar. She couldn't do it. Donald Trump has done it. Donald Trump has done this in just over 6 months. Kamala Harris had 4 years and never even got close to it. America is standing tall on the world stage once again. To them, President Trump's success is something to be feared, not celebrated, though. The Democrats don't want him to succeed because they don't want our country to succeed as long as a Republican is leading. But let's circle back to the real story here. Kamala Harris now admitting out loud what many Democrats whispered privately, evidently last year, and what we all knew and we said out loud. They knew Joe Biden wasn't up for the job. You and I knew Joe Biden wasn't up for the job. We saw the decline. We saw the confusion. We saw the missteps. We saw him shaking hands in midair. We saw him struggling to get up steps. We saw him literally confused where he was. He mixed up names. Even when he had cards with people's photos on them and their names under it and who they were and who they worked for. But yet the Democrats who were close to him, like Jean-Pierre, like Kamala Harris, like Jill Biden, they said nothing because speaking up meant risking their own careers and their party's grip on power. They thought they could prop Joe Biden up for another 4 years and maintain their power. So they let him stumble through debates. They shuffle through press conferences and mumbling through State of the Union speeches while the American people paid the price. That is not loyalty. That's just cowardice. And that's just wanting, that's being selfish with your own country. Now that it's things are safe, now that Joe Biden's retired and President Trump's back in the Oval Office, Kamala Harris is trying to rewrite the narrative. She's saying, I did have concerns. I just didn't want to say it publicly. Well, that's convenient. But where was that concern when American credibility was on the line in Afghanistan? Where was it when inflation hit a 40-year high? Where was that concern when the border collapsed and you were the border czar? And your boss sent you down there to handle it, and you didn't do it. Kamala Harris didn't have any trouble defending him then. It's only now, when it helps her politically, when it helps her try to come back and get a job, now she's suddenly wanting to step out and say, well, I kind of had my suspicions. That is the most asinine thing I have ever heard. So where does that leave us? I mean, where do we really go from here? Simple. Kamala Harris is testing the waters for 2028. She's trying to position herself as the honest insider, someone who saw the truth about Joe Biden but stayed loyal to the end. It's the oldest trick in the Washington playbook. Rewrite the past to justify your future. But the American people, you and I, we know it. We have long memory, and we're certainly going to remember this. We remember the nervous laughter. We remember all the word salads that she produced, the awkward pressers where she couldn't string a thought together, and we remember her full-throated defense of Joe Biden's fitness back when she thought he'd take her along for another term as the vice president. We're not going to forget that. You can't rewrite that with one BBC interview. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Well, folks, this is one of those Hollywood-type stories. We talked about it for a minute or so last week. It's like out of Ocean's 11. The two men, well, actually, there were 4 people involved. 2 men have been arrested in connection with the $100 million daytime heist at the Louvre Museum in Paris last week. You remember this? It's the jaw-dropping robbery where thieves dressed in construction vests and motorcycle helmets used a cherry picker and a chainsaw to literally saw an opening in the wall to get through. And tourists were just standing around watching them do this. And they did it, of course, to steal some of France's most valuable crown jewels. And they were out in under 4 minutes, in and out. You thought it was a professional job. However, they planned the heist pretty good. They just didn't plan their getaway that good. Authorities say that one of the suspects was caught trying to flee the country boarding a flight to Algeria out of Charles de Gaulle Airport there in Paris. The other was arrested soon after in Paris. Both are in their 30s, according to authorities. They're from a very tough area of Paris. And get this, they were already known to police for past robberies. They have a record. Now they're being held on charges of organized gang robbery and criminal conspiracy. So here's where it gets a little bit wilder. 2 suspects are still on the run. Police have not recovered the stolen jewels yet. That includes priceless relics linked to the 19th century royalty from France. Sapphires and diamonds, brooches, even Empress Eugenie's emerald crown, which is later found outside of the museum, damaged but still intact. Officials believe that this wasn't just a rogue smash and grab. Investigators think that the heist was done on commission, possibly for a high-rolling buyer somewhere in the shadows. And, that was my question from the beginning, so once you get them, what do you do with these types of jewels? Because not just anyone's going to buy them. You can't take them down to the pawn shop. So police say that they've collected over 150 pieces of DNA, fingerprints, hair samples, things found in helmets, vests, scattered evidence across Paris. In the meantime, security across French cultural institutions have been stepped up, and the remaining crown jewels, well, they've been moved to a Bank of France vault. No more cherry pickers getting near those. France's interior minister praised investigators for their swift arrest, but the Paris prosecutors weren't happy about the media leaks, warning they could hurt efforts to track down the rest of the crew and the missing jewels. So we'll see. We'll be hearing more of this, I'm sure, in the coming days. News out of South Carolina. I told you on Friday that the state was having some key meetings concerning the VC Summer nuclear reactors. Well, evidently they were successful meetings because we're being told now that this could mark one of the biggest energy comebacks in South Carolina history, and one that might just put our state back at the center of America's nuclear future. So after years of scandal, bankruptcy, political finger-pointing, South Carolina state-owned power company, Santee Cooper, is back in the headlines. Now, this time, again, it's something big, a move to restart the abandoned VC Summer nuclear reactors in Fairfield County. Back in 2017, Santee Cooper and South Carolina Electric and Gas, that's the old SCANA company, walked away from one of the largest failed construction projects in U.S. history. Not in South Carolina history, in U.S. history. Over $9 billion had been spent to build these two nuclear reactors. I've talked about it a lot over the years because I'm just astounded at how this is able to happen. When it all collapsed, thousands of workers lost their jobs. SCANA went bankrupt. Santee Cooper customers were left footing the bill. About $3.6 billion worth of debt that still shows up, by the way, on monthly power bills for those customers. Dominion Energy then swooped in and bought SCANA, but their customers are still paying off about $2.3 billion. I mean, it's just a mess. Well, now after 8 years of mothballs and legal battles, that project might finally be coming back to life. And look, the timing couldn't be better. President Trump wants this type of energy. The country needs this type of energy. So on Friday, I told you about Santee Cooper's board having a meeting where they voted unanimously to start formal negotiations with Brookfield Asset Management. They are a New York-based investment giant that manages more than $1 trillion in assets worldwide. So it sounds like they have the financial wherewithal to get this going. Brookfield has one of about 70 companies that express interest when Santee Cooper put out a call last year for private partners willing to take on a project that's this massive. Now, after months of review, they made the short list. In fact, they're the firm that Santee Cooper wants to work with. CEO Jimmy Statton told reporters Friday that these negotiations will take about 6 weeks, and while they haven't released the financial details yet, the deal is expected to worth billions of dollars. Well, of course, you got billions of dollars in assets there already. Brookfield already has a foot in the nuclear world. They actually took over Westinghouse, which, by the way, was the original reactor designer. Back in 2018, they went bankrupt. Statton says Westinghouse won't be doing the construction this time, though. Instead, Santee Cooper and Brookfield will bring in a new builder. Well, I would hope so. And here's the key part. Santee Cooper customers will not be paying for any new construction, which is a good thing. Statton was crystal clear about that. He said, "We protected the ratepayers of South Carolina. All the construction costs will be borne by private investors and the companies who buy the power." That includes tech giants like Google and Meta, who've been expanding data centers across the Palmetto State, and they need this reliable type of energy. So if this deal works out, which no reason to think that it won't, it could be a win-win. Santee Cooper gets to pay down its old debt. South Carolina gets 2 new nuclear reactors producing clean, reliable power without adding new costs to the average family's electric bill. That's all good. Statton said, "I feel pretty confident that our customers will realize some fairly significant value, both rate-wise and otherwise, in this process." Governor Henry McMaster has been calling for what he calls a nuclear power renaissance in South Carolina. U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham has pledged to help shepherd the project through the federal regulatory process, and they've even got a little help from the top. President Donald Trump signed an executive order back in May, you may recall, calling on the Department of Energy to fast-track approvals for 10 new large-scale nuclear reactors by 2030. Well, look, here's 2 of them right here. So you got 8 more to go. Statton says South Carolina is aiming to have reactors number 1 and 2 on that list. I mean, that's a big statement, folks, and if it comes true, it would mark a total reversal of the shame and failure that has hung over VC Summer for nearly a decade now. And let's be honest, restarting nuclear construction, it's not like flipping a light switch. Even with private funding, political support, this process could take a year or more just for due diligence, for the licensing process, for a permitting process, and before a single shovel hits the ground again. And nuclear power is not cheap. Just look at Georgia's Vodal plant down there. It started construction around the same time VC Summer did. While it did finally finish last year, it took about $30 billion to get to that point. But look, the fact that someone's willing to step in and take this back over, that is good news, folks, for everybody in the Palmetto State. That's it for today's show. Tara's up next, followed by Mike Gallagher, Bill Frady, Charlie James. I'm back again tomorrow from Israel. Until then, folks, remember, God's got this. He's still in control. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.